I'd like to thank you for investing in my design, the Explanar putting mat. I've been teaching golf since 1973, and you and I both know how important putting is. Whatever level you play, from tournament pro to intermediate to novice, getting the ball in the hole on the greens is essential to a tidy score. Nothing more discouraging to hit the ball well onto the green and take 3 putts. Now when you look at the mat, it's got some distinctive markings, and there's not a complex piece of equipment to use at all. However, the markings are there to do 2 things: to improve your putting stroke, but more importantly, to improve your sense of pace. Most of you watching this clip will think, well, I can read a putt quite well. And I'm with you. When you miss a putt, it's probably because of the pace more than anything else. So as we go through the workings of the Explanar putting mat, I'm going to show you how these features work, and a number of things are going to happen. You're going to roll the ball better, the ball's going to keep its line, and you're going to hold more putts. As you roll out your Explanar putting mat, you'll see the quality in the backing and the velour finish on the top. So it really does sit beautifully. I'm here in my teaching studio with an AstroTurf surface, which is pretty flat. But if you want it to be very flat, very simply just go down to the hardware store and purchase some marine ply. This is marine ply that's 3/4 inch thick. It's just cut into these sections here, not even screwed down, they just sit nice and flush, and the ball will roll absolutely beautifully. And later on you've got the option of actually putting some spacers on the edge, and you can give yourself a putt with break. But let's talk about the markings. And the primary marking that we're going to start off with is this orange stripe. And the orange stripe runs through the ball all the way to the white cup at the end. And the orange stripe is the width of a golf ball. So it's not like you're putting down a wire or a very thin line. You can actually appreciate the way the ball rolls, and it holds its line as it goes down there. So when you're working in the middle of the mat, it's basically mechanics led. You're trying to get the ball positioned properly, you're trying to aim the putter face and prepare, but the first skill of putting is to get the ball rolling down the orange stripe. So let's give that a go. It's very easy, particularly with putting, to get too technically minded, worrying about the club face and your hands and ball position pace, and you get lots of advice from lots of different people, your friends on a weekend and magazine articles and people like me, lots of advice, most of it good, but a plethora. So let me just distill the thing that we're going to work on with the Explanar putting mat. The primary skill is rolling the ball. Now, if you have ever been 10-pin bowling or even lawn bowling, there's a golden rule, and that is not to do it overarm, they get upset if you do it, but to roll it underarm. And the skill of bowling on a bowling green or at a 10-pin bowling alley is to get the ball down onto the surface, rolling, because when you roll the ball, you are going to control the direction, but also the pace. It's an amazing thing that the white jack on the bowling lawn can go 30 yards to 30 metres away from the bowler, but when they send the bowling ball down there, even with the bias, they can judge distance to within inches over 30 yards or to 30 metres. So the same is true in putting. From the shortest putt to the longest putt, if you're going to get the pace of the putt and the line, the ability to roll the ball is paramount. Now when you use the orange stripe, which is the width of the golf ball, the putter face itself needs to be square to that intended line. And you get a lovely visual pickup, particularly with my 2-ball putter here, but I can see the face is at 90 degrees to target line. I have to take my grip, my putting grip, and plant my feet. Now at this stage I need to make sure that the blade of the putter, the face of the putter, is what's between my feet, because that's the base of the arc. If you have the ball dead central, you're going to catch the ball slightly on the downstroke. If the ball's too far forward, then on the upstroke. But to catch the ball sweetly, the base of the arc is critical. So remember, it's the face of the putter that you present, and it's the face of the putter that lives between the feet. Now if you've aimed the putter face and you've got a good grip, your shoulders, hips, knees and feet quite naturally fall into a parallel alignment. So let's give this ball a roll, and all I'm trying to do is to keep the ball rolling and going down the orange stripe. So Simon, my honest cameraman, will tell you that was take one. More than your mechanics, it's the ability to roll the ball that matters. Now, a rolling ball holds its line. Once it stops rolling, it deviates, particularly out on a grass surface. But the human body judges distance, presuming that you're going to roll the ball. If the ball bounces or bobbles or runs smoothly, if it has a variety of different ways of leaving the putter face, it's hard for you to get distance control. But if you know how to roll the ball end over end, then you're in a strong place. Let me say it again, the ability to roll the ball will make up for any deficiencies you might have in your putting stroke. If you learn to roll the ball from good preparation, guess what? Your putting stroke will be pretty good for free. I want you focusing on every putt, on the pace that you're going to roll the ball. That is the key. So, let me ask you 4 questions. Does roll come from acceleration of the putter head or deceleration? Well, the answer is acceleration. So the second question is, do we want abrupt acceleration or do we want smooth acceleration? And again, the answer is we want smooth acceleration. Now, does smooth acceleration come from a long backswing or a neat backswing that's the right length? Well, it's obvious. Your best roll, your smoothest roll, is going to come from a neat, economic, efficient backswing, not a big long backswing that then decelerates. So the fourth question is, do you want a backswing that is too quick or that's nice and measured and steady? Well, the answer is you want a measured, steady backswing. Now the beauty is, if you roll the ball, those 4 things happen. You end up with acceleration, you end up with acceleration that is smooth, you end up with a backswing that is the right length, and you end up with a backswing that is the right pace. So those 4 things come from the art of rolling the ball. If you work on the 4 things individually, it becomes technical. It tends to break the thing down and it removes you from an instinctive feel. Okay, so let's say it again. Once you set up, once you've aimed the putter face at the target, in this case down the orange stripe to the hole, and I build my grip, the face between my feet, I'm just thinking about rolling the ball end over end. You can see I just hit that a little bit firmly and it went through the hole. However, even though the ball wasn't perfectly struck, it still hit the hole because the ball came out of the putter head rolling end over end. A number of years ago, I taught a young golf professional called Paul Ashwell, who has gone on to be a master PGA professional. And we worked on his game. He was hitting 7 or 8 greens in regulation initially, and we got him to hit 15 and 16 greens. But that puts pressure on the putting, and I remember him coming to me probably 18 months after I first started coaching him, and he told me that his putting was dire. Well, this often happens when you improve your long game and you hit greens in regulation, you're actually putting from further away, and if you have a 3-putt, it just knocks the stuffing right out of you. So I asked Paul what was wrong, and he said, well, everything. And he didn't stop talking for 2 minutes, telling me what was wrong with his stroke and all the woes of his putting worries. I said, okay, Paul, I'm going to putt you for 9 holes. We're going to putt for a 5er, but there's a catch. You've got to hold your putter face 45 degrees closed. So I'm going to demonstrate that now. I'm going to set up with my blade, but I'm going to turn the putter face in by some 45 degrees. So mechanically, this is disastrous. But have a look what the human body can do if it improvises. So you can see, I had the club face corrupted by some 45 degrees, and yet I was able to loop the stroke, redirect, and get the ball in the hole from 10 feet away. So what does that tell you? It tells you that an ounce of intent is worth a pound of detail. You might not aim the putt head perfectly, your stroke might not be perfect, but if your intent is to roll the ball at the target, guess what? The desire to roll it overcomes the weaknesses. The moment you start worrying about where the face is pointing too much, or the length of your backswing, or the pace, any mechanical thought will always detract from the instinctive ability to feel the shot and get the ball to roll end over end. So let me just refresh your mind on that. We want 4 things to happen when you're putting, and it all comes from rolling the ball. When you roll the ball, you need acceleration. The acceleration of the putter head has to be smooth acceleration, not abrupt. To do that, you need a backswing that is neat and not overly long or overly short. And lastly, you need a backswing in your putting stroke that is deliberate and measured, not one that is snatchy or jerky. It needs to be measured. I often think of a dart player throwing a dart. I would always imagine they go back steadily before they release the dart. This is measured. It's not jumpy, it's not sluggish. It's measured and there's an acceleration. Big link, I think, between snooker and darts and putting. A lot of things that they have in common. That is rolling the ball when it comes to rolling the ball and smoothly accelerating the dart when you're going for treble 20. It's always pleasing to hear that sound as the ball drops below the ground and into the hole. It's probably the most important break in golf, the 6 inches downwards at the end of every putt. Now, let's just talk about alignment, because the ball is going to be affected by where the face points, and where the face points are going to affect the way that your body, your shoulders, your torso, hips and your feet line up. Now, one of the things that's counterintuitive in golf is that the stroke is not straight back and straight through. You see, if we imagine like a little Ferris wheel, and there's the putter head hanging vertically, then in that particular case, the face would stay at 90 degrees to the path all the time. However, if you imagine, because it's true, the putter has a certain number of degrees of lie angle, it's not a vertical, it's a slightly inclined plane. And what this does visually, it means that as the clubhead goes back, it actually fans open ever so slightly. But it's not fanning because the face is twisting in your hands and your forearms. It's fanning because there's an arc, and the arc comes slightly to the inside of the ball. The greatest putter I've ever seen for clutch putts over the last 20 years plus is Tiger Woods. And Tiger, when he starts practicing putting, he putts with his right hand only for a few minutes. And he actually encourages his right hand to be creative and to produce a roll on the ball. We've heard the phrase, take the hands out of putting. And for me, it's not a good thing. I wouldn't take the hand out of a dart throw. I wouldn't take my hand out of a snooker movement. I wouldn't take my hands out of table tennis or tennis. My hands need to be active, but they're active within the swing path and plane described by the putter. So don't worry about where the face is going during the swing. If the face is pointing down the ball target line, the orange stripe, you get the face, and I think if I came to here you could see a long way, then I would track a huge amount and the face would open. But the putter only has a few degrees of lie angle, so it's very, very subtle, and as the putter head goes back, it tracks a little bit to the inside, the ball is hit sweetly, and the putter head will track. If you try and keep the putter head square back and square through, it's a recipe for pulling your putts all the time. And once you start pulling the ball, then you'll start blocking it, and you don't know which side the ball's going to go. So it's an important point. While we offer the blade to be as square as possible to intend a line at address, we don't worry about the behaviour and the path. The path is going to be described because of the putter that you're holding and your posture. So don't worry about the putter head journey, you worry about the journey of the ball. Let's strike the ball, make it roll down the orange stripe. I was privileged to speak at Butch Harmon and his brother's teaching conference in Las Vegas about 10 years ago. And I was able to present my Explanar golf training system and my thoughts on the golf swing and teaching the game. On the bill, one of the keynote speakers was the legendary putting designer, Scotty Cameron. And he had the capacity with his cameras to track the journey of the sweet spot in the putting stroke exactly as it moved. And there are indeed on tour guys that they might as well be aluminium and steel robots. The putter head tracks and the sweet spot tracks to absolute perfection. It's amazing how accurate a human being can be with a mechanical movement if he practices. And then Scotty showed us some traces of two-stroke putting strokes. Both had a slight loop in. And that loop, that change direction in the stroke, actually was numbers 1 and 2 on the putting stats on the US Tour at that time. So what it showed you, it wasn't the best strokes that hold the most putts. It was the guys that could roll the ball although the putting stroke had a slight loop in. Bobby Locke, the great South African, had a loop in his stroke. Duffy Waldorf, there's many out there. Some guys actually feel that they cut their putts into the hole. Bobby Locke, as I just mentioned, he felt that he drew the ball into the hole. Every putt was a right to left for him. So why am I making that point? I'm making the point it's not the best strokes that make the best putters necessarily. It's great to have a mechanically good stroke, but feel and the ability to roll the ball even more important. Now, between the two world wars, the Tiger Woods of snooker and billiards was a man called Joe Davis, who had a younger brother called Fred Davis. And the legend was that Joe could get any pro in snooker a 2-black start and beat him in a match. He was head and shoulders better than anybody. Well, Joe Davis had a wonderful putting drill, or sort of cueing drill, I should say. And what he would do, he would put the white ball, the cue ball, on the brown spot, and there would be the green and yellow spot there. There would be the blue, the pink, and the black ball in a row. So what he would do, he would send, with his snooker cue, he would send the ball down the table, over the spots, over the black spot. And if the stroke was pure, the ball would return on the same line. However, if there's any deviation in the stroke and he miscued slightly, the ball would go down the table, kick a bit, and come up on a different line. So there's the greatest snooker player that ever lived, the Tiger Woods of his day, as I said. He had a drill that led him to good mechanics. He wasn't working on the mechanics, he was working on the task. And the task was to roll the ball down the table over the blue, pink and black spots. And if the ball came back up on the same line, he knew that he cued it well. If the ball went down and came back on a different line, he'd known there was a miscue. So that's the beauty of drills, swing drills and putting drills. Find a drill that makes your technique good, not the other way around. Don't work on the technique first, work on the task. You can work on the technique and never do what you want with the ball. However, if you do what you want with the ball, I know one thing, the mechanics must have been pretty good. As I said earlier, we hear the phrase, take the hands out of the stroke, and I believe that's a poor thing. I think your feel comes from creative hand action. The skill is to hide the creativity in the hand within the putting stroke. So if you have good mechanics at address, and your hands function as they should, why wouldn't the arms, shoulders behave? They will. So here we go. I've got the golf ball 10 foot, 8 foot, 6 foot, 4 foot and 2 foot. And we can just work from the short putt and build up. And it's the common drill of trying to hold 5 balls in a row. So once you set yourself up, just trying to get the pace right. And we're hitting the ball down the orange line. As you remember, the orange line is the same width as the golf ball itself. If you keep the ball on the orange line, you've got the 2 black lines either side as leeway. Just thinking about keeping the ball rolling down the orange stripe. I'm not thinking about my mechanics. I'm only thinking about the pace of roll. Roll the ball end over end. I love that one. I could hear that it was pure. Came right out of the sweet spot. Okay. As I said earlier, you can hear a good putt. And again, my wonderfully honest Simon will tell you that was first take and we had 5 in a row. So that's using the orange line, and the orange line is the width of the ball. The 2 black lines is the width, almost the width of 3, not quite 3 balls width, but it's a 4 1/4 inch hole, and therefore if you can live on the orange path, you've got the 2 black paths as your leeway. Okay, let's show you some more drills using the Explanar putting mat. There's no harm in working on your swing mechanics or your putting mechanics, provided when it comes to actually playing, you become involved on the feel of the shot and the distance control and the pace and the ability to make the ball roll end over end. Now you can build the swing up in pieces and build up the putting stroke in pieces. So there's an advantage in putting with one hand only as a drill. Tiger starts his putting practice off right hand only. He believes that there is a strike within the stroke. When he goes back, the face fans a little bit and it turns a fraction, simply because of the inclined nature of the putting plane or arc. So I've aimed the putt ahead. I've got the face of the putter exactly between my feet, but I've put my left hand behind my back. This is right hand only, getting the ball to stay on the orange stripe if I can. So I pulled it slightly, and that is the nature of the release. You're probably going to pull it. That was better. Just caught the left edge. So what I can tell you is that feels creative, but it does feel a bit woolly. It does feel as though it might wander a little bit. So now I'm going to reverse it. I'm going to take my setup with as norm, and this time I'm going to put my right hand behind my back and I'm going to practice left hand only. Now you can see that putt wasn't absolutely perfect. It went just outside the right line, but because it stayed in the black line, it just caught the right lip of the hole. So the path you have is actually 4¼ inches wide. So if I marry the creativity of my right hand to the stability of my left hand, the grip comes together and forms one functional unit. So here we go. I've hit some putts with my right hand only, hit some putts with my left hand only, but now I go back and both hands work together. But in my mind, I'm still working on the behaviour of the ball. I'm not worried about the behaviour of my stroke. If my setup's really good and I roll the ball as it should, I'm pretty sure that my stroke is good enough to count. As you can see, at first look, it's rather a strange pattern on the mat, but it's all been thought out in order to make it simple and clear. Now, putting well is about feel and touch and instinct and a good use of the eyes. So what you'll notice is there's this long narrow silver triangle, and when we putt from the 10-foot mark, which is here, down to the hole, our focus is narrowing. When you're having a bad day putting, you might have this putt and it feels like you're putting down the back of a mighty whale, and you're trying to putt down the back of the whale into the blowhole. The trouble is the whale's back goes that way. So mentally, most of you watching this DVD for the first time will see this silver circle, the silver triangle turned round with the fat end down there and the thin end down here. But in the time that I've been using the mat to show you thus far the technique of the orange stripe, I've also been aided by the narrowing of the triangle. It just focuses me into the hole. Now what you'll also notice is around the hole is a 9-inch circle, and the back is green and the front is red, and the reason being is that we don't want putts to come up short in the red zone. If our putts miss, we want them to miss level with pin high or just behind it. So if you're going to miss the putt, miss it slightly beyond the hole, and the red zone is a penalty. Don't do that. That ball's never going to go in. Another thing that helps greatly is to read the putt beforehand. Now obviously I've got the Explanar putting mat laid down on the marine ply. Out on the golf course I'd have to read the putt. And I would probably come here to read the putt and have a look and get down. But the next stage is critical. Let me show you the most common fault in club golfers basically. The key putting fault is they do this. They put the putter face down and take their grip, and then they look at the hole. Now that's crazy. That's like aiming your gun before you found the target. It's so important to give your eyes the best chance to align, and you need two eyes. If you use one eye, you're limited, particularly on depth perception. So I would have read the putt from here. I walk in, my body is slightly open and both eyes are being used, and I look at the hole, and then I aim the putter face to the best of my ability. If I then take my grip, it brings my shoulders into parallel, and now my feet are also parallel to the orange stripe. As we go down the silver triangle, these lines are on an arc, so that they're circular. But where the orange stripe is, they look pretty square. It's been an intentional thing up here. In this area, I haven't put a black line all the way across. There's a black line either side, And when we putt, we make sure that the back of the ball is on that black line. And the reason was I didn't want to sort of spoon feed you, make it too easy and not trusting your own instinct in your own eyes. So I didn't put a narrow black line there for a reason. I left it just the orange stripe. But nevertheless, when I go in and I aim the face, I'm turning my head, using two eyes, cross-referring. When I'm happy that the putter face is aimed as I want it, then I take my stance. Again, don't think about the theory, just think about rolling the ball end over end. Again, slight deviation, the putt didn't go dead straight, it started out to the right, but the beauty was it stayed within the acceptable range of a miss. It stayed inside the black line. So just to recap, when you've read your putt, walk in, aim the putter face only after you've looked at the hole. Look at the hole, use both eyes, and do your best to aim the face. Then build your grip and take your stance. We've also made sure that it's not the ball that's dead between your feet, it's the face of the putter. That's key. We want the putter face to be at the base of the arc. So the black lines, they help you aim, are for the face, and that's where you get your ball position. It's the back of the ball that's between the feet, not the middle of the ball. It's only an inch, but it does make a difference, particularly on fast greens. The narrow silver grey triangle that starts broad and narrows down to the hole focuses our attention on the target. I've also got lines down the edge of the grey triangle, and the putts that you want to avoid are either pushing the ball to the right of the hole or pulling the ball to the left if you're a right-handed golfer. So it's rather slick and very subtle, but if you practice from this side or this row of golf balls, if you're somebody who pulls their putts to the left, if that is your regular bad shot under pressure, you pull it left. When you aim from here, you go from parallel, your body becomes closed, and now it's square to this new line, but it feels as though the hole is in front of me. And therefore I don't want a stroke that pulls across me, I want a stroke that goes towards the target. So if I set up using this line, it deals with that very simple thing. So this is the drill to do if you're pulling your putts. By practicing on this side, you're helping prevent the pulled putt. It really feels to me, as I hit the putt, it feels like I'm going that way. I'm not, because the balls are going in the hole, but compared to the parallel lines in the middle, there's a distinct difference of feeling when you work from this side. Under hit that putt, so it slipped away, and first miss out of 4. Let's see if I can redeem myself. That looks better. Let's summarise all the information that I've given you about the Explanar putting mat. The first thing is that it's on a rubber base with a lovely plush velour upper surface, so the ball rolls beautifully around 10.5 on the stimp measuring. At home, if you've got a tiled or wooden floor, the mat is going to be fine just straight onto that. If you're on a less stable surface like a carpet, I'm on AstroTurf here in my studio, but if you've got some lengths of marine ply, 3/4 inch to create a base, it's a very simple, very inexpensive way of creating a perfect bed. Like a snooker player would have a slate bed, you can use marine ply. But as I say, a lot of your surfaces at home would be equally effective because of the rubberized base. The key to Explanar putting mat, of course, is the markings. And I can putt from here down to the hole, and from here is a 10-foot putt when we're using the 4-metre putting mat. The orange stripe is the width of a golf ball, so we know that that is the narrowest path to the hole. Either side of the orange stripe are 2 black stripes. which is almost not quite 3 golf balls width, but with the 2 black stripes and the orange, they combine to make a 4¼ inch path to the 4¼ inch hole. The danger has always been with putting that you can get too much theory and too much technique in your head. I've been at pains to tell you that the art of putting is based upon rolling the ball well. A rolling ball holds its line and your body assumes and judges distance on the assumption of a rolling ball. So that's very, very important. When it comes to using the putting mat, start off rolling the ball down the orange stripe. You have different distances that you can practice different lengths of putt from, and you can use short putts. And if you then move to the outside of the grey long silver triangle, you can putt at an angle. One of the things that's great about the mat, if you pull your putts, if you practice on this line of red balls here, this is a lovely way of getting a stroke that goes towards the hole. It feels they're going to the right, you're not, but it certainly stops you pulling the ball. Now conversely, for somebody that does push the ball out to the right, then practicing on this diagonal line will help you greatly. You see, you haven't got the comfort of the straight line now, you're actually at an angle, your eyes, your shoulders, hips, knees and feet are across the centre line, that you're coming at an angle. So again, you aim the putter face, you take your grip, but if you've been pushing your putts, the hole now feels a little bit behind me. Over here, it felt as though the hole was in front of me. But now I'm over here, I'm going to have to release the putter head more strongly if I'm going to hole it. So I'm releasing the putter head to the ball. My approach for you in putting is you learn to roll the ball first and worry about your technique after that. You know, you can have great technique and still fail to roll the ball well. If you had a flawed or slightly different putting stroke, I wouldn't worry too much if the intent to roll the ball is there. What I think you'll find with the Explanar putting mat is that as you do the tasks that I've given you and shown you, you'll be led to have a good stroke mechanically. So I'm all for it, but if you gave me a choice, I'll always put feel and intent over the mechanics. If you're going to have an effective stroke, there are 4 qualities. The first thing is the ball has to roll because it holds its line when it does, and your body assumes the ball's going to roll, and that's how it judges distance. Now, if you're going to make the ball roll, you need the acceleration, and that acceleration has to be smooth, not abrupt or punchy or sluggish. It has to be a smooth acceleration. Now, smooth acceleration will not happen if your backswing is too long or too short. You need your backswing to be measured in pace. And again, you won't roll the ball well if your backswing is too long or too short. It needs to be the appropriate length of backswing. The beauty is if you actually learn to roll the ball end over end and keep the ball on the orange stripe, it will lead you to those 4 qualities. You'll have a rolling ball, you'll have smooth acceleration and a neat backswing at the right tempo. That's got to be good. All you've got to worry about is keeping the ball on the ground, running end over end. Again, I want to thank you for investing in the Explanar putting mat. If you follow this simple coaching, I know that you're going to reduce your number of putts and enjoy your golf even more. Do keep in touch and go to our website at www.explanar.com. I look forward to hearing from you and wishing you the best of golf for the future.